Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
And hello, everybody. You're very welcome to our first Chats on the Road to Las Vegas for our coverage of Black Hat, not coverage of ITSP Magazine, coverage of Black Hat USA 2023. And this is always a great time to kick off summer, if you will, and do a hacker summer camp event. I'm flying solo today. Marco's not joining me, but he and I will be doing a lot around the Black Hat trainings and briefings and conversations and everything else going on in Las Vegas. And I'm thrilled to have Steve Wylie on. Steve, it's good to have you on the show again for our annual tradition.
Yeah, it's great to be back as always. Missing Marco this year, of course, but I'm sure I'll catch up with him in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. He won't stay away too long. And for those that have followed us, you might know that Black Hat is actually the birthplace of ITSP Magazine. I'd been many years prior, but 8 years ago, Mark and I decided to turn our idea into reality, and ITSP Magazine was born. And we've loved working with you, Steve, and your team over the years to kind of get our finger on the pulse of what's going on in the world of InfoSec and cybersecurity and everything surrounding it. And it's always a fun ride, and there's always something new. Playing games with us this year, it's probably AI. We'll get into that. But before we get into everything that's going on that week in August, a little bit about you, Steve, for those who may not know you yet. Your role with the event.
Sure, thanks, Sean. So Steve Wylie. So my role here at Informa Tech is I'm vice president of the cybersecurity market group. So that includes, of course, the Black Hat events, which we're here to talk about today. It also includes our market intelligence group called Omdia, and then Dark Reading, our news and information website. But specific to my role as the general manager of Black Hat, I've been with Black Hat for, I guess it's 9 years now, and that time has flown by very quickly. And it's been an interesting 9 years, to say the least. Most notably, the last few years, which I'm happy that we're sort of seeing in the rearview mirror now in terms of lockdowns and virtual events and everything we were sort of navigating. It's great to be back with these in-person events at scale. We've got a lot that we've kind of come out of that era with that's very positive in terms of making all of our content accessible on demand, for weeks after the event. That it just makes the experience attending Black Hat that much richer when you don't have to scramble between sessions and pick between sessions. It takes a little bit of the pressure off. You can see your sessions that you want to see the week of Black Hat, and then you've got access to the full library after the event on demand, which has been a nice bonus of lockdown and all things pandemic.
Is that the virtual note or tag that I see? That's the online on-demand stuff afterwards.
Yeah. We're doing it a little bit differently this year. We've continued to sort of evolve our strategy there, where we've moved away from doing it as more of a simulcast because you can't be in two places at once. So this is really more about you've got the in-person experience in Las Vegas, and that you just can't beat that. But you've got the whole library behind it, which we make available a week after the conference. So it's more of an on-demand experience where you can access all the content. There's still quite a lot of networking opportunities on the platform, and a rich amount of content to access. So we're seeing, the sort of the usage patterns of our Black Hat attendees shifting, where they're very active on the virtual platform as well. Last year at Black Hat USA, we had about 17,500 people in the building with us, but 15,000 people accessed the on-demand event portion, which is really fantastic to see that they're fully taking advantage of that.
Yep. It's incredible. I think we're all hungry for information, right? To do our jobs better, to do whether it's research or detection or response or strategy and architect, whatever it is that your role is. We're hungry for information and insights from those that know, right? And what better place to get that than in Las Vegas at Black Hat. So let's talk a bit about the overview of this year. So same format in terms of trainings and briefings. What is it? 4 days, 2 days, and then for those who care, there's the we're up for it. There's the DEF CON activities following. Talk to me a bit about the Black Hat program.
Yeah,
What's it look like this year?
sure. So it's a lot of what people are familiar with in terms of the 4 days of trainings at the front end of Black Hat, 2 days of briefings. I think we've got nearly 100 Black Hat briefings this year, which is a full lineup, and great to see. We've got the full lineup of Arsenal programs this year. So Arsenal, for those that aren't familiar with it, this is really the open source tools that come from the community that are showcased, that Black Hat demonstrated at Black Hat is always a big draw. So a full lineup of Arsenal tools. We've got some new programs, which we always do every year. Try to do something new. So I've got a few of those we could talk through as well. We've got a very full keynote lineup. I'd be happy to spend a few minutes on that. So we're 4 weeks out recording this now, and it's we're eager to get to Las Vegas, get to see everyone in the flesh, see the community come together, and really get to what we expect to be a fantastic week in the desert and hanging out with friends.
Yeah, eager is the right word. I feel that as well. So yeah, I'm also excited. I know the keynotes, but I don't want to go there quite yet. Is there a theme for this year's event? I don't know if you claim one or if you build an itinerary around it this year, or if one surfaced. Talk to me a little bit about what you're kind of feeling
Yeah.
in that regard.
So I think Black Hat's a little bit unique in that the content comes almost 100% from the community, right? So, and I think we've talked about that on this podcast in the past. We do a very robust call for submissions. We get many people vying for a spot to speak at Black Hat. We've got an incredible review board that vets all those submissions. It's a tireless effort on their part, many hours logged. So what we tend to do is we don't go into the event with a theme in mind. We like to see what sort of bubbles up, from the community. What are we hearing from the people out there doing original novel research, and what they want to showcase at Black Hat? So certainly earlier you touched on a key theme, AI. That's certainly probably the topic in tech this year. And with that, I expect that to be a very high area of focus during the conference and in the briefings in particular, and the keynote program as well. I think, given that we're 2 years into the war in Ukraine, I think we've got a few things there that really touch on that directly. So that's great to see. And really, I think on the war in Ukraine, it's really from a security operations standpoint, like we're seeing, this is a war that's playing out in real time, and cyber is a big part of it. So I think we'll be able to share some key insights and learnings there from people, on the ground. And so I'm excited about that. So that's a couple of, I would say, the bigger themes playing out this year in the conference.
Yeah, and I mean the bigger picture of technology. I mean, it's easy for me, and we actually started ITSP Magazine with a focus on cybersecurity and its connection to society. We quickly realized, well, maybe it took us a few years anyway, but we realized that you can't have that conversation without the conversation of technology and its use for good or not so good or evil, right? Depending how far you take it. And the war is certainly one of those areas where there's a lot of technology being used, not just for cyber warfare, but for warfare, kinetic warfare even. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of things to touch on there. And I want to maybe spend 1 second on the AI point. because my sense, and this may not be directly connected to the event, but maybe some of your thoughts and how you might see it play out in the event. But my sense is that everything is being touched by AI, and at least in conversation form. Whether it hits the streets in ones and zeros yet or not, everywhere in cyber is another story. But do you feel that a lot of the conversations, even if they're not AI specific, will have AI elements in them? And then I'd love your perspective on this. I have my own, I can share it as well. But do you think we might lose sight of some of the basics by focusing on the shiny AI
Mhm.
stuff as well? I know your thoughts on all that stuff.
Yeah, I think the Black Hat community does a great job of distilling through the shiny and and making sure we focus on the basics. And that's one of the things I love about this community. They're very outspoken, I think. But you're raising a good point. Like, AI is the new shiny. We need to focus on sort of, real world implications, real world risk, real world benefits as well, right? So I tend to look at, with AI in cyber, I tend to look at it in sort of two-pronged approach, where in part AI has been being used in cyber defenses, right? A lot of the tool makers are using AI engines to create better products, right? So that's a whole half of AI and meets cyber, and then the other half of that as well. You now have potentially a lot of risk being created by AI as well. So there's the whole other half of this, which is how are we going to defend against this new sort of landscape that's going to be enhanced by AI. So I think it's interesting, and I think really, as always in cyber, you have to sort of separate out the what are the true risks and true benefits from the hyperbole. And I think the Black Hat community does a great job with that. I look forward to, I always like to come out of the event with one of my sort of key learnings. I look forward to coming out of the event this year with some for myself some better understanding, better opinions about AI, and how it's going to both positively affect society, but also things that we need to be wary of and rightful to sound the alarm on.
Well, let's go to Maria's opening keynote. That's day one of the briefings, Wednesday at 9 a.m. She's talking about AI and presumably us, the community, being guardians of this AI era. And I don't know, can you give us the elevator pitch for that without
Yeah,
giving anything away?
yeah, I won't give anything away, but we're really thrilled to have Maria, opening keynote for the event. Speaking about trends, AI talked about that as a big trend this year. That's in tech, and we wanted to have a keynote that really dug into that. And Maria is sort of uniquely qualified there. So a little bit about Maria. So she's obviously the founder of Azaria Labs, and probably most known for her work around IoT research and ARM research. I think what she's going to bring to the conference and to the keynote stage is really a a talk that digs deeper into what we were just describing there. What are those key benefits of AI, but also since we are Black Hat after all, what are the risks of AI, and how is AI going to impact cybersecurity? So I think for us with the keynote stage, we like to generally try to have someone from the community who is a thought leader and emerging as a thought leader around a particular topic. And Maria is certainly that. She's well known within the community. She's one of our own. She's on the Black Hat review board, as well. So we're thrilled to see her, taking that opportunity to be our opening keynote speaker this year, and really set the tone, I think, around AI for the rest of the conference.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And also Wednesday in the afternoon, I don't know if you, it's called a keynote. Sometimes they're called lock notes, but Jen Easterly and Viktor Zhora are to do a
Yeah,
fireside chat. I like those formats a lot. I mean,
yeah.
two super cool people having a good chat. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, so similar to our sort of desire to have a good community person, thought leader. We also like to have some talks that can really look at the world from more of a global policy standpoint and sort of what's happening across the real world. So that really is that afternoon keynote fireside chat between Jen Easterly and Viktor Zhora. So Jen Easterly, so she was appointed to her position, Director of Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, CISA, back in 2021. And so it was July of 2021, and we had her on the Black Hat keynote stage 3 weeks later. So it was, and it was a fantastic talk. She did a really good job, really digging into her vision around how hackers and government and the private sector can all work together. That was sort of the main, underpinning of her talk. But she was literally 3 weeks into the new role, so we were very eager to have her back now that she's a couple of years in and can speak with more experience, in the job. This time it is a different format. We're doing more of a fireside chat format. So and that fireside chat is with Viktor Zhora. Viktor, so he is responsible for defending Ukraine's digital infrastructure, and even as this war with Russia rages on. So it's really interesting for us, that two people from two different governments looking at security operations in a real world, setting, the war in Ukraine and how Ukraine has had to defend against attacks on its digital infrastructure, from one, head of CISA to the head of cyber infrastructure in Ukraine. I think it's going to make for a really interesting and insightful conversation around what they're seeing, how they're responding, and what they're learning from the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, it's a sad topic, but necessary topic to discuss. And I think as an industry, we often point to healthcare as where cyber touches human life, and clearly this is another area where that is happening. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation. I'm sure there'll be many takeaways there for folks to learn. And Thursday morning, Kemba
Yes.
Walden. Tell us a little about that one.
Yeah, so Kemba Walden, so she's acting national cyber director in the office of the national cyber director. So we're very fortunate to have someone from the executive branch this year of the U.S. Government addressing Black Hat. I think what I'm excited about, is just Kemba's tenure in this role. I mean, there's just a lot of really significant things that she's been a part of. So starting with the implementation of the Executive Order 14028. So that was improving the nation's cybersecurity, which dug into a lot of really important issues. So this is back, I think, in 2021, addressing things like public-private cooperation. How do we reduce friction within the federal government on sharing of intelligence between intelligence agencies around threats? Dug into things like supply chain security. So of course that was right on the heels of SolarWinds was the big topic back then. So I think what I'm looking forward to in the talk from Kemba is hearing from someone that's really directly involved with some of these really important issues at a federal government level within the executive branch of the government. So she'll be our Thursday morning keynote, really setting the tone for that day and kicking us off.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen it over the years, the number of policy related and big picture conversations like these coming to bear, which is super important. I mean, these problems are complex, and while we all have our own little enterprise or entity or startup, whatever it is that we're trying to protect ourselves, even, we need somebody looking at the big picture. And I think that big picture helps drive some of the day-to-day activities for each of us as well. So I'm thrilled to see those three keynotes come together at that level. But I know a lot of people want to get into the nitty-gritty. You mentioned
Yes.
Arsenal. That's one of my favorite, the open source tools, and seeing all smart people sharing their skills and technologies with others to help improve things. Where else can maybe some of the more technical folks hang
Yeah.
out. Not that they shouldn't care about the policy stuff, but they want to get into the ones and zeros.
Yes, the ones and zeros are always a big deal at Black Hat, and that's most notably is the Black Hat briefings, right, which are generally quite technical. And so we've got a fantastic lineup this year, and I would say I reached out to our content team, so Jennifer Hughes and Steve Oldenburg, who they're the team within the Black Hat team that liaise with the Black Hat board and really shaping the content. So I reached out to them just to kind of take their pulse on what was the review board sort of excited about in the process. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a really long process. There's a lot of really long phone calls. So what were their takeaways there on things they're excited about and why, right? So I've got a kind of a short list of talks that are kind of on their radar, and therefore they're on my radar, and I'll definitely be checking them out. So the first one, James Kettle. So he's a repeat speaker. He's always a very high scoring speaker at Black Hat. Has spoken with us many times. So he's doing a session on called "Smashing the State Machine: The True Potential of Web Race Conditions." So this is really looking at web applications and race conditions, and a flaw. As web race conditions, a flaw that produces unexpected results around web applications. So he's got some original research that he'll be disclosing at Black Hat. I think he's got an arsenal tool as well that he's going to be bringing that really looks at that. And I think the review board was excited about this one just because of the wide-reaching, far-reaching implications of something like this. There's so many
I think
web
there's a few
applications out
web
there in
apps
the
out
world.
there.
Yes, a lot of web apps out there. So I think this one is it scored really highly in the review process, and also just knowing the researcher himself, he'll do a great job with it. So I think that's going to be one to catch for sure. There was another session. So this actually dovetails in nicely with what we were talking about earlier with the war in Ukraine. This session is lessons learned from KA-SAT cyber attack, response mitigation and information sharing. So this is a very high scoring session submission within the review board. This KA-SAT it's a Viacom satellite which serves much of Europe, including Ukraine. And this submission was described as the review board as groundbreaking in that and really one of the most important hacks over the last couple of years. So that caught my attention. And what we're talking about is a real world satellite attack, successful satellite attack with wide reaching consequences within Ukraine, who is, of course, as we talked about, engaged in active warfare, and is very much dependent on this communications infrastructure. And I think, Sean, you were touching on this earlier, like the human life, right? We're talking about here. So the implications are really profound and serious. So I think that really got the attention of a lot of folks within the board as well. So this session, I think, is going to be good because it highlights how Viacom collaborated on incident response with several government agencies and the intelligence community and law enforcement agencies. And we're going to have both Viacom as well as the vendor, as well as the NSA will be on the stage doing this as a joint presentation. So I think this is really insightful stuff on a very serious and important topic.
Yeah, space is the new frontier, right? Certainly for this as well.
Indeed.
We know the aerospace village is really beefing up their research, and Hackasat. I just had a chat with those guys a few weeks back, and there's a lot of stuff up there that a lot of people probably don't realize that controls our stuff down
Yes.
here, or helps us live down here anyway. So, that's gonna be a good one. Excited for that.
There's another one that made the list for me anyways, was dismantling DDoS, lessons in scaling. So this is one that the FBI are participating in, which is sort of which is great. Like we have the FBI doing a session at Black Hat this year. And it's really, their look at global DDoS trends, right? So it's, how many attacks, what type of attacks, against what types of targets. So they're overlaying all of that data across time, economics, geopolitical events. So I think that's going to be a really insightful session. And, DDoS remains a very big problem, obviously, for everyone. So having a group like the FBI, they're presenting on kind of what they're seeing, their viewpoint, and what the future might hold there, I think is going to be really good. And then there's one session that I included just because it kind of fits in with the, I will say, the fun category as well as maybe public service announcement category. So this is a session called Oven Repair, the hardware hacking way. So this is a researcher, Colin O'Flynn, demonstrating a low-level hardware hack into a Samsung oven. Thus saving the oven from becoming e-waste, right? Because he was having problems with it, and ultimately saving his Thanksgiving turkey. So those sorts of talks are always kind of fun to have something to keep us focused on, the bigger prize, the turkey on Thanksgiving Day.
That's right. The food, anything dealing
The
with
food.
food, I'm there.
Yes.
Well, let me see. I love that that list. There's a few really cool ones there. Let's see if I can spot any of the new stuff. I thought maybe I did. Was it? Only one stood out to me though.
Okay.
Maybe something. Maybe they came back. Oh, two things. Micro summits, is that one of them?
Micro summits.
And Day
Yes.
zero. Day zero, I recall, but I don't know if it was there and it
Yeah.
came back. I don't know.
Day zero has been
Talk
around.
to me about
So
micro. Okay.
yeah. So let's talk about some of the new stuff, because there's a lot of it this year. So Day zero is not new. We've been doing it for a few years. So this is for people not familiar with it. This happens on the day before the briefings, Day zero, and it really is sort of an introductory session into Black Hat. So what's new about it this year is that we change up the content each year. So this year, we've got some folks from the Black Hat Review Board there, really helping, especially newbies to Black Hat, understand how to navigate the event. What talks are they especially focused on? How to make the most out of their time at the event. It's Black Hat's such a strong community event, and people get so much out of being there that week. So what better people to guide that effort than the Black Hat board themselves, many of whom have been involved with Black Hat since day one, right? So it's a really good way to just kind of get immersed into the whole Black Hat experience. We've got a couple of new programs. Micro summits are not new. We've actually had these. We had introduced these before the pandemic. We did one on cyber insurance. We're bringing that back this year. So I think that the new on micro summits is that they're back in full force in person. We've got the cyber insurance micro summit that's being led by Jeremiah Grossman, Black Hat Review Board member, someone quite well known in the community as well. So that one is, an important adjacent topic. Cyber insurance isn't something we talk about in depth within the briefings, but it's a whole, new, big, important area for people defending their enterprise. They understand their cyber insurance policies and practices as well. So Jeremiah does a good job with that one. And then a new one that we're doing this year is called entrepreneurship. So this is really with this one, it's how do we help that next generation of cyber researcher who might be thinking of a new business idea, and how they get off the ground, right? So we've seen so many examples of founders of companies at Black Hat who started off as a Black Hat attendee, and they were maybe doing some research or just there generally attending the conference or what have you, that have then gone on to establish known companies and grow those companies. So we, as Black Hat, we recognize our role within the community. We want to be an event, a conference that's really helping to um, bring those opportunities to bear for people who might be starting off on that process. So the new entrepreneur micro summit is going to be led by Justine Bone and Caleb Sima. We're really looking forward to that. We actually had two of our winners for our spotlight competition this year are going to be presenting within the entrepreneur micro summit. So really good sort of full circle there, where we introduced this spotlight competition at Black Hat, which is basically we put out a call for entries for anyone that's very early on in their company or product rollout to submit, to us why, why this was an interesting, innovative thing, and we've kind of winnowed that list down to a final 4 companies, presenters that will be taking the stage at Black Hat to present their business, and a final winner will be announced at Black Hat in the spotlight competition. But to have 2 of those people, entrepreneurs themselves, who have taken something from idea to business to winning the spotlight competition final round at Black Hat, this is really great to have them on the stage talking to budding entrepreneurs, people who might be thinking about taking a similar path. So the spotlight competition, not new per se, but it's something we launched last year, but we've sort of built on that. It was really successful last year. We got the attention of the community out there, of people who are starting new businesses. So the plan is this is something we want to continue to grow and really make this this competition a main event at Black Hat each year.
Yeah, I love it. That's well, Wednesday, I presume, is the collection of presentations, right? And then at the end of the day is the announcement. And then
That's
you have
right.
all day Thursday to hang out with the finalists.
That's right. All 4 finalists will be there
Okay.
in our on the show floor. That was part of the prize for getting to that final round, is they got a spot, which is also really cool that we can, as Black Hat, help these companies along to get established by giving them some visibility. They've got, they've done a lot of work of coming up with something really innovative and unique, and they won, and we want to showcase that to the community and get them some attention. So I think this is a really nice way for for Black Hat to give back. We've also got, in the new category, we've got a new session we're calling Diversity Micro Talks. So this is part of our community track, right? So we've got a very robust community track at Black Hat that covers a lot of really important topics, just around social topics, sustainability topics, you name it. It's a program that we've been building on for probably 7 or 8 years now, and trying to really make that an important part of the Black Hat event experience. So this year we've introduced these micro talks, and we've got 3 very practical sessions offering unique perspectives on creating positive change within one's company. So there's one talk Andy Ellis is leading, focused on inclusion within the workplace. We've got a talk being led by Megan Jacquot and Asta Salhi that's going to focus on a data-centric approach to breaking barriers within the organization. We've got a session from Olivia Rose on microaggressions and turnover. So, really looking at, these are very practically oriented sessions, like, these social topics that have an impact on your enterprise, on your business and your workforce, and how we can be, better aware of those to create better environments for our teams.
Yeah, some names I recognize as well. So I'm sure there are going to be some great sessions there. So clearly, I'm not a researcher, because I didn't dig deep or far or wide enough to find to find those new things. But I'm excited he continued to innovate and expand and grow the content and bring new things to light. You touched on the 4 winners get a spot on the show floor. So let's talk about show floor for a moment. The business hall is, I mean, at Black Hat, it's a chance to actually talk about how attacks maneuver, right? How business is impacted by these attacks, and how teams can use tools to help mitigate the risk or the threat and respond to the attacks. It's a place to have those technical conversations with the companies that know what's going on. So talk to us a bit about the business hall. I don't know if there are any highlights you want to share from there.
Yeah.
Any snippets?
So the business hall is continuing to expand. I think we'll welcome well over 400 exhibitors this year to the event. So we're thrilled with that. And I think, what we try to really encourage, and I think what makes Black Hat unique, and even though it is a big business hall and there's a whole sort of vendor side to the event, we really encourage, and what we see is that those sponsors do a good job of providing still good technical resources and representation within their booths. Even if they're doing a sponsored session, there's some great sponsored sessions where there's some real very solid subject matter experts, often the subject matter expert that's doing a sponsored session. So we definitely want to encourage people to check out the full lineup of sponsored talks as well, because there's almost as many sponsored talks as there are Black Hat briefings. So it's a very, very large part of the program. And staffing the booths with technical people. The attendees, we hear time and time again, attendees want to hear from the engineers. They want to hear from the practitioners. They want to, they enjoy that exchange that they get within the business hall. So we want to keep encouraging that. We're expanding the business hall, so we're kind of in a similar space usage as we've been over the last couple of years with the business hall in A, B, and C on the first level. This year it goes A, B, C, D. So we're taking a little bit of Hall D as well. Arsenal will be back there, so there'll be some familiar things in the new space. We've tried to create some more kind of engagement areas within Hall D, the new Hall D as well. Really picking up on, we launched an event in the Middle East 2 years ago, Black Hat MEA, and the team there is doing a really good job of creating really good interactive spaces. So a few of us were at the event last year in Riyadh and came back with some ideas on different things we could do with the other Black Hat events as well to create more interactive spaces. So things like drone hacking are going to be there. So I would encourage everyone to check out some of the fun stuff happening back there, as well as the overall business hall and sponsors.
And then doesn't get more real-time engagement than the knock.
Yes.
So the knock's still there. Obviously, that you have to have a network to run all this stuff, and one can only imagine the fun things that across those wires and waves. Anything new with the knock?
I can't say enough for the knock team always. So I think these guys are so well known within the community as well. So Bart and Grifter, as everyone refers to them, but it's Bart Stump and Neil Weiler and Steve Fink as well. Steve Fink is sort of the third member of that team that really do such an amazing job of protecting us and protecting attendees at the event, and make sure that all of our trainings can happen without a hitch, knock on wood. So yeah, they're back this year. And what we've been trying to do, I think, with the knock program over the last few years, it's not a new thing this year, but we're certainly continuing to build on it, is really getting people more access to the knock through sessions. We do, Bart and Grifter usually do a session, Tales from the Knock, on their kind of learnings from the week, because they've got one of the most incredible sort of security operations centers there, right? They're seeing real world things happening at Black Hat. Just given the nature of the event, there tends to be a lot of activity, and these guys are kept really, really busy. They do a phenomenal job with protecting us, but they also make it fun, right? So I would definitely, if you haven't seen the Bart and Grifter talk, definitely put that on the agenda, because it's always one of the highest rated talks at the event. And they bring in some key learnings and insights from the week. They're looking at real traffic, and they're looking at real threats, and there's always some good insights there that make for good learnings, but also good entertainment.
Yeah, those guys are amazing, and the knock is incredible. I mean, it's not fun and games in there. It's it's real stuff. To your point, I mean, Black Hat is one giant demo, and we all know how live demos go, right?
Yes.
They're not easy to pull off, and you're doing a ton of it. So, yep, hats off to the knock team for sure.
Yes.
All right, we've touched on a lot. There's so much more in there. There's something for everybody, of course. In the show notes, we'll include links to the things we touched on here during our chat, Steve. Of course, the main page where the schedule can be found. we're working with your team to line up some more conversations to talk about more of these topics a little broader, to kind of highlight some more of the sessions that are taking place and the briefings that are happening. So I'm looking forward to that and appreciate your team's support in that effort as we continue our coverage. The dates, 5th through the 10th,
Yes.
4 and 2, Saturday through Thursday. Yep. In Las Vegas, Mandalay Bay.
Las Vegas, and then you can carry on to DEF CON for the rest of your week. And by that following week, you'll be ready to fall over.
Exactly. Full of knowledge. I love it. Well, Steve, it's always a pleasure. And I know Marco sends his best. And we look forward to all the goodness in Las Vegas with you and your team and the rest of the Black Hat community. And final word from you, call to action.
Final word from me is I would say, as the security threat continues to evolve, we need to continue to evolve how we're responding to that threat. And there's no better way to do that than to get among your peers, right? So, we hear that time and time again from our attendees, from our speakers, from our review board. The whole hallway con, lobby con is such a big part of the event, and about building that community. So really, you're just leveraging that full week in Vegas to connect with your peers, connect around key learnings to help, defend whatever enterprise it is that you're defending out there, to stay ahead of the bad guys. So we look forward to seeing everyone in Las Vegas. It's going to be a great week, and it'll be here before we know it.
I know, it's around the corner. All right, Steve. Well, thanks for kicking off our chats on the road to Las Vegas as part of our coverage here. And thanks everybody for listening. And hope to see you in Las Vegas in August.
Thanks, Sean.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you learned something new and this story made you think, then share ITSP Magazine with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our columns. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.